Hello everybody, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick battle ladder replay. Today on the Isle of the Crimson Skull, I'm playing the Druki and I'm up against ALDBY or ALDB from the Sons of the Mountain clan, a bunch of Dawi enthusiasts and true to form. ALDB or however you want that to be said, is playing the Dawi. So we'll go through my opponent's force first. Interesting setup here. So Dwarf Warriors of Dragonfire Pass mixed in there up the front with a backline of miners. Now I'm not sure. I'm not a Dawi main, so I'm not sure how effective this is. But I kind of feel like a lot of the blasting charges here might be going into the back of their own warriors. So it's an interesting setup. I was a bit confused when I saw this. My initial response was to just sort of rush in and as I said, hope to get some of those blasting charges on the back of the Dwarf Warriors, but we'll see how we go. Obviously, you know, the Sons of the Mountain are, like I said, Dwarf mains, so they probably know better. We've got some Giant Slayers here, some regular Slayers, likewise on the other flank, Slayers and Giant Slayers, so a pretty Slayer-centric sort of rush build here. We've got the hero core down here consisting of Felix, who has taken, look like just his sort of abilities, not really none of his items. So Helping Hand, as well as the Blood Oath for the big healing blob on the characters. So Thane here, just a basic Thane, been stripped back completely, and Grombrindle with the Smoke Bomb, and Grombrindle has no fear. So pretty cheap. You know, he hasn't taken his items on here or anything. So a bit of a bargain sort of Gotrek Felix squad, I guess. Gromby is pretty decent in his own right. So for my forces, I am playing the Druki, and I have a front line that consists mainly of a couple of Bleak Swords and the Sisters of Slaughter. Now, I'm a big fan of these guys, or girls, I should say, in this matchup. A lot of people sort of think that armor piercing. I think I've sort of highlighted this in a previous video with the Wood Elf sort of version of these girls with war dancers and the like. But the Sisters of Slaughter are just very, very hard for dwarf infantry to kill. 57 melee defense is pretty massive when you stack it on top of 20% physical resistance. Obviously, they have very little armor. They do have a shield block chance, but physical resistance as well as a massive melee defense against a faction that has almost no magic damage on regular infantry outside of, I think, Grombrindle, Gotrek, and the Peak Gate Guard are about the only sources. They're just very hard to kill, and combine that with the fact that poison actually debuffs. Poison is effectively a 20% ward save in its own right in combat. Means these guys just fight and fight and fight, and they trade pretty decently even with Longbeards. That's a pretty long, drawn out fight, but they'll get through Dwarf Warriors, they'll get through Miners, they'll get through skirmishes if they get on them, and they absolutely obliterate Slayers 1-to-1. So I've actually gone with four Sisters of Slaughter here, and given they have 44 speed, they can almost act as almost like cavalry in this matchup. Back in the infantry lineup, we have 3 units of Shades, so just the regular Shades. I haven't spent any extra on the great swords or the dual infantry, but they have a good amount of ammunition, stalk, and again fast. So if there's gyrocopters, we can screen them. We can run away from everything. I think apart from maybe Slayers can probably catch them. Well, 42 speed, maybe not. But leading the force, we have Lokier. We also have a Shadow Sorceress with Pendulum and Enfeebling Foe, as well as the Darkstar Clark. And we have Lokier Fellheart here, obviously with his Kraken Helm to give him his melee defense and regen, as well as the Dreaded Duelist and his Foe Seeker Deadly Onslaught type abilities, as well as the Merciless Slaver. You can probably actually take that off against dwarves because they have such high leadership. We also have a number of Dark Riders with shields hiding in the forest, so they'll be good for screening out, screening the Shades, keeping them safe, maybe getting some rear charges. So we'll get this fight underway. So like I said before, if you can protect Sisters of Slaughter from skirmishes and particularly blasting charges, they're actually excellent in this matchup because dwarves just really struggle to kill them. And you see these Slayers out here, I'm making a beeline for them because I know that's a matchup that they want. Anti-large and armor piercing obviously is completely useless against Sisters of Slaughter. And we see the Ekron's Miners here, and we decide to get our first volley down. Some really nice damage in there, dropping a good amount of unit models taking their ammunition with us. So let's see how the blasting charges go here. I don't think there's a flash bomb going down here. Loki is getting a little bit overeager here, but again, I feel like a lot of these blasting charges are just probably doing as much work to the dwarves as they are to me. As we see an okay mind razor go down there, and the dark riders have been revealed. Although this is probably not a fight that these Dark Riders want to stay in at all. 2 units of Slayers here. That's probably a bit of a misclick by me. But the Sisters of Slaughter just fighting 2 to 1. You see there I am pulling back, indeed. And now my Shades can sort of split. Interesting to see these units like push through a unit of Sisters of Slaughter here. But hey, stranger things have happened, I suppose. And we see here, these Giant Slayers dropping pretty quickly, as I said. And not a lot of damage going back in against the Sisters of Slaughter. So I'm happy to fight a bit of a running retreat with my Shades here. But the Sisters of Slaughter here, they're obviously great leadership as well. They'll probably actually be able to grind down this fight, particularly now that Murderous Prowess is active. The 2-for-1 over here did put a bit of damage on my Sisters of Slaughter, but we are going to reinforce. Lokier Fellheart, however, where's he? Got absolutely smacked by the Dwarven Goon Squad, so I've pretty much going to have to be pretty careful with him now. The Shades, like I said, a little bit quicker, and we're using the Dark Riders to try and get rear charges, and we're just splitting up here so that the shield block chance can't take effect on the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. And the Hero Squad now sort of just wandering around a little bit aimlessly. There's not a lot that they can catch, as we see a nice pendulum going through here. The Bleak Sword's actually doing a pretty good job here of just holding, and fairly atrocious fight here, but the Sisters of Slaughter have worn down this unit of Giant Slayers. So Loki is pretty much going to have to run and just busy himself sort of just killing Dwarf Warriors. Likewise, we can use the Dark Riders out here to screen. 1-to-1 with Felix. He can probably get a few hits in, but Felix is a decent combatant. Particularly against other sort of infantry-sized models, does have a good bit of armor piercing and an anti-infantry bonus himself. But now that he's been separated from the rest of the Hero Squad, who are stuck here fighting against these sisters, unfortunately being poisoned and slowed down, he can be singled out. And we see here with his buffs, Loki's actually put a ton of work into him. There's also an enfeebling foe going down, so Felix is probably dead here. The Sorceress here is really just sort of cackling away and imparting her buffs, and we see our Shades are a little bit spread out. Unfortunately, these ones are actually being compromised in combat. We did have to suicide those Dark Riders to push these Slayers back to get a couple of volleys in here, but we've got a lot of Sisters of Slaughter, still 48 models here, 47, still at actually full leadership. That's one of the other really nice things about Sisters of Slaughter. They are a very high leadership unit. They will stay in the fight. Felix is probably not going to be able to come back. Probably need to get Loki or Fellheart to chase him, and we're just keeping the Sisters of Slaughter, keeping Grombrindle basically at bay with his with the poison effect on him, basically so he can't hunt Loki, he can't reunite with Felix. We do need to get these Dark Riders back on. I think I'm noticing it now, but we see everywhere else, these Slayers and these Dwarf Warriors are sort of hunting this unit of Slayers, Shades rather, but the Bleak Swords here can probably screen out a little bit, and Shades actually aren't bad combatants, so in combat they're probably not getting great value. The Slayers aren't getting great value against them. So once again, Loki getting a little bit overeager. He actually got flash bombed, and he may actually get killed here by Grombrindle. We see here 250, one more hit here, but again, poison going down, just debuffing some of the combat stats. He obviously has very high melee attack still. 60 melee defense on Loki. However, he is I am realizing now that I need to get him out of dodge, or he is going to probably die. But now that he's fleeing, I can just sort of get the wrap on him with the Sisters of Slaughter. The Shades are just going to pull back to a firing position, and he's going to have a tough time just cutting through all these Sisters of Slaughter. These ones over here have finished off a whole unit of Giant Slayers by themselves and are now just cleaning up the scraps as they come back to the fight. And that probably is going to be the battle. I think that's army losses for the Dwarves. Grombrindle's just going to fight to the death here, but with the Shades ready to pepper him if he gets loose, my opponent is going to tap out, and the Druki will take the day. So Not sure about the wisdom of having the blasting charges in the back. I'm not sure if they get obstructed easily or if they've done a lot of value. I mean, when I saw blasting charges, I was a little bit worried because they are one good way to kill Sisters of Slaughter as the Dawi. But I saw a lot of good. Value immediately as this sort of game started, and the forces were sort of revealed. A lot of giant slayers. As I said, 1-to-1, a unit of Sisters of Slaughter will cut through slayers pretty effectively without taking very big losses themselves. Felix getting separated was pretty massive because potentially Grombrindle and even a Thane can cut through a lot of infantry with the benefit of the healing, the helping hand. So the fact that Lokia got smashed in the early game, probably could have really been compounded if we hadn't managed to isolate Felix, but he's still got some value. He's put some punch onto the characters. The Sorceress got a couple of good enfeebling foes off. A couple of her pendulums weren't so great, but the Bleak Sword lines held well. They've held pretty well. Once Murderous Prowess kicks in, they can actually punch up against sort of Dwarf Warriors and that sort of thing, despite the lack of armor piercing. But look at the value on the Sisters of Slaughter. I mean, they've all pretty much got their between the 4 of them, they've definitely got their money back. Shades, probably not so much. I thought they might have actually done a bit better, but they spent a lot of the time having to withdraw from the Slayers that push through. And the Dark Rider's basically just there to offer a screen. So again, not big numbers, but did what they needed to do. So if we have any Dawi mains watching this, comment below about whether blasting charges. I still think blasting charges need to go up the front. So I was actually pretty happy to rush into combat there, because you've got to soak them up somehow. That's probably one downside to this list. It's one downside to the Druki in general. Not a lot of good ways to soak up blasting charges. You've kind of just got to take that on the nose sometimes. But having the Bleak Swords there just to buffer out the front line with some more bodies was handy. Dwarf Warriors didn't really. The Dwarf Warriors don't ever really get value. But again, as I said, more than one way to skin a cat rather. Don't always have to invest so heavily into AP when you're fighting the dwarves. They're a faction that is characterized by low melee attack, but good HP pools, good armor, and good melee defense. So there are ways to win the grind without just having to sort of blast through with attrition. So yeah, think about Sisters of Slaughter next time you're playing the Dawi. Don't worry about the lack of AP. It won't. There's a lot of AP on the Dark Elf roster. A lot of ways to make up the slack there. So thanks to Aldby from the Sons of the Mountain Clan for the game. Thanks to you guys for checking it out as always. And until next time, take care.